You alright, folks, and welcome back. Well, it's a bitch being right sometimes, isn't it? So, only a handful of hours before the Cata pre-patch went live for the US servers, our lords and masters finally opted to share some information regarding some of the questionable changes to Cata Classic, and it only really confirms what I said in my last video on the pre-patch. Cata is far from ready, and they're just pushing it out to meet the release date instead of actually developing a functional product. Now, let's go over this ridiculous post, shall we? First thing it mentions is the stable issue for hunters, something we've wanted to know about for a while, and yeah, it's not getting updated with the pre-patch launch, meaning hunter pets will operate as they do in Wrath without the inclusion of the call stabled pet ability. So, like I said in my pre-patch video, managing hunter pets is going to be a hell of a lot worse in a time period where changing pets is actually pretty beneficial. The post does state, however, that they intend to update this feature to its proper Cataclysm state by the full launch, if not sooner, which isn't really acceptable. It only goes to reinforce again that this shouldn't have been launched and that they should have delayed the entire thing until it was actually properly fully cooked. They also touch on the aggressive and assist stances for pets, which should have seen an update to its Cata form, but hasn't, and their only answer is, we'll do it in a future update. This is a theme we will see throughout the entire post. Their wording is also fairly deceptive, saying things like we plan or we intend, and it's very clear that this hasn't been planned or isn't intended in the sense that they think it's a good idea. It's intended and planned retroactively because they didn't have it sorted in time, yet still opted to push the release regardless. But by saying, oh, we'll have this sorted in a future update, it gives this clearly strapped indie company the leeway to deliver an unfinished product. Void storage, it's a bit of a weird one this. It hasn't worked the entire beta, and I think we all just assumed Blizzard had forgotten it exists, and I suppose to a degree they have. Their argument being that since we don't need to store countless transmog items now, we clearly don't need void storage, except for the fact on retail my void storage is full to the brim with old bits and pieces of kit I keep for nostalgic and sentimental reasons. But this is Blizzard, good memories are forbidden by the High Council, and any deviation from this is to be met with summary execution. Thing is, void storage is where you'd traditionally stick those items you plan to keep long term, be they rare, unobtainable, or just something you think is neat, without clogging up your bank, because if you're anything like me, your bank usually gets crammed full with profession reagents and other such malarkey. But apparently void storage is now obsolete with the inclusion of the wardrobe. Silly us for thinking otherwise. But in all seriousness, this is just another one of those things that didn't need to be removed, and is just a shortcut Blizz took instead of actually developing their game and producing a quality product. We've known for a while Blizzard trying to burn through Cata at a breakneck pace, and it seems in order to achieve this frankly stupid goal, they are quite literally ripping out aspects of the game, big and small, and tossing them in the furnace to fuel this accelerated content cadence, because if they actually spent time, working on the game, there's no way in hell they could push Dragon Soul out by freaking January, because they'd have to spend their time, making sure the rest of the game actually worked first. Then we got the guild leveling and its related perks. Nice to finally have some word on this, but it's still bloody stupid. So, like I said in my last video, guild leveling has been scrapped and item rewards will be awarded via guild rep instead, which is something I speculated on a couple of weeks ago, so fair play there, I suppose. But the perks, yeah, a fair number of guild perks are now just baseline in the game. You don't even need a guild to access them, further devaluing the guild system. Honestly, given how badly they've dismembered it, it would have just made more sense to scrap the entire bloody thing, because it's not even a shadow of its former self, it's barely a speck of dirt compared to the OG implementation of this system, and that's just tragic beyond belief. And perks that aren't just outright handed to you regardless of your guild status will be granted upon simply joining a guild with no barrier, be that level requirement or reputation with that guild. But something that surprised me, they actually addressed two of the perks being removed. have group will travel, and cash flow. I mean, they don't really say anything, they just repeat what we already know. They aren't in the game, and won't be with no reason given. We can sit around and speculate as to why, because cash flow was a bit of a mad one to be fair, but they just haven't even bothered justifying the changes. They just go, yeah, this is happening a couple of hours before it actually goes live, and we're still none the wiser as to why this is the case. And where have group will travel is concerned, why not just give it to the warlocks? I mean, you gave all the healers a mass res instead of guild res. What's wrong with the warlocks having a raid-wide summon? Alright, there isn't an issue. Blizzard are just as ever inconsistent on their own ideology and have no clue about what game they're making or the audience they're making it for. Guild Finder and Guild Events Calendar. Yeah, I honestly didn't pick up on the fact the calendar wasn't even in the beta, but I was frying other fish as it were. It's yet just more features that Blizzard have ignored or forgotten about up to this point and are only going to deal with it once the game goes live, which is just their attitude towards this expansion. Said it in my last video, they do not give a monkeys about Cataclysm, and it's just the red-headed stepchild they remember to let out of the house every couple of weeks for fresh air. The rest of the time, they couldn't give a damn. But they are going to add both of these features post-launch, but it is just another item to add to the list of things they sacrificed working on to meet this ridiculous release and content schedule. And also, for some reason, the Worgans cannot access the barbershop. It's a shame they didn't have a beta to test this sort of thing, isn't it? Oh wait. Yeah, look, it's as I said in my video on the pre-patch being ready. This is not the game the Classic dev team wants to make, and it is glaringly obvious. This post feels like they were prepping for the pre-patch to go live on the US servers, and they realised they had no communication on that lined up, and just quickly cobbled something together based on some of the most repeatedly asked questions on the beta. And this whole post can be easily summarised as, we ran out of time to actually make the game, so we just cut out things we couldn't bother to balance or implement, and we promised to fix some other stuff we didn't put in the pre-patch at some point in a future patch. Possibly, maybe, we're not sure. So there we have it, folks. The pre-patch and Cataclysm is not a finished product, and I know some people out there will be like, well, actually, this feature was introduced in a later patch anyway, so that's what they're doing this time round. Yeah, no, this is classic. Quality of life features have near enough always been implemented at the start, and the Hunter thing is just downright ridiculous. Going, yes, we're not going to update a pretty well-known feature of this class yet, whilst also removing an ability that made using this feature a lot friendlier at the same time. Sorry, not sorry. Right now, if you are on the fence about Cata Classic, my advice to you is this. Go and play a private server. You won't be ripped off, and it'll probably be developed by people who actually want to make the game. And Blizzard, if you are watching, unlikely though that is, but just in case any of you are, you should feel bloody ashamed of yourselves. Anyway, that's me for this one. Just thought it was worth going over this completely ridiculous post. Let me know your own thoughts down below, and if you say comments, like, sub, show your pass, and so on, that'll be grand. Have a good one, folks. Bye for now.